This is the Loongson CPU. For the Loongson CPU LoongArch ecosystem innovation conference, talking about how the Loongson CPU builds the ecosystem using the newest LoongArch instruction set to build the ecosystem. And this guy, Hu Weiwu, is the Loongson technology chairman, the director. So he is the boss. Now I am seeing the Loongsin Zhongke from the Loongsin Zhongke account. Loongsin Zhongke 这个 Loongsin LoongArch Innovation conference, talking about and share about the LoongArch ecosystem, how they build the ecosystem using LoongArch. Oh, let's continue to see what's going on. He's talking about the Loongsin CPU to build the self-homemade, homegrown Chinese instruction set with the LoongArch ecosystem. He said that already, this is a very difficult path for building the CPU, unlike other, Huawei using ARM. So the ARM is by the UK and American, those kind of IP, but Loongson is the self-development. The LoongArch, the instruction set, unlike Huawei using ARM and other Zhaoxin using x86 instruction set. So LoongArch is the self-instruction set. Don't need to care about the Western countries. Through invented by themselves, no reliance on the other countries. Don't care about the sanction. Talking about how they strive and struggle to work using 20 years to build this CPU. So, encoded from our great former president Mao, Chairman Mao, talking about the we have target and we need to strive for it. We need to struggle and we will do it for that target, and we must do it. Yeah. And he's talking about something like this. Talking about the ecosystem. Open. And they need to open. And they have compatible. They are compatible. And talking about the, binary translation, so they can run the x86 and ARM instruction set on their CPU as well. This is very innovative. He's talking about how they build the ecosystem. A lot of Chinese OS already supporting the software support the LoongArch instruction set Loongson. They are talking about this. x86 is the closed source and ARM is about the IP authoritative IP only. So we need to buy the V8 and from the ARM, and Huawei already bought the V8, and the V9 Huawei doesn't have because the sanction, so it's not safe. This is the IP authority for the instruction set, so it's not safe, and it's not so homegrown, it's not controllable. But with Wi-Fi is open source and by the American Foundation, but now I think the foundation moved to Northern Europe, I think, like Iceland or something, right? I forgot, like Sweden or Iceland, I forgot. Just like Northern Europe, I remember. This is Wi-Fi, open source, but it's not equal to homegrown and home self-made. But this is the LoongArch, as I thought, is the Longson's latest architecture instruction set. Before, Loongson used the MIPS, the MIS, with their addition instruction sets into the MIS, adding some kind of maybe 1000 extension instruction sets to it, but still rely greatly on the MIPS. So you cannot modify too much. The MIPS instruction set, you cannot modify it because you need to see and the company, the MIPS, whether they agree you add more instruction sets or extension to it. So it has limitation. But LoongArch is the brand new one, invented by the Loongson. They have experience because 20 years experience from researching the CPU. 20 years ago, they established this project. Now I think it's already 20 years, so they are well experienced. 20 years already. So with the mixed experience, now they have invented the LoongArch. This is open source, open, and it's the Chinese architecture. So it's the self-made, so it's very safe and very controllable, and you don't need to be afraid of other countries' sanctions, like American sanction. You don't need to afraid of the sanction, so it's very great. So Loongson is running at this target using LoongArch, which why maybe for some Chinese companies, so for some open market, but LoongArch is for the Chinese government, military, and and the party and the communism party to use the LoongArch, so it's very, very safe. ARM maybe Huawei or some Wi-Fi may be some kind of also can be okay because it's open source. x86 is not safe. Okay, they are talking about this. They're talking about the LoongArch. It's very advanced and it's homegrown. They're talking about using the LoongArch comparing to the MIPS MIPS have a 20% increase because of the LoongArch. They can add whatever extension instruction sets into it, so it's very custom made, so it's very fast, not controlled by others, not affected by others, so they can develop by themselves. So 20% faster than the previous instruction set MIPS. And this is very homegrown and it's very highly safe and very safe because it's 100% by themselves made. And also the compatibility is very good for the very compatible for the ecosystem. And talking about why it's so compatible, because they have the LoongArch has the new feature is the binary translation. It's like Apple Rosetta, right? Apple can translate the ARM applications to x86. So LoongArch is the same using this theory, using this concept. So they have the binary translation, which can translate x86 ARM into LoongArch instruction set. So the software you can use from the x86 and ARM. So the Windows, Microsoft Windows with Intel, those software, they can use it on the Loongson platform because they can translate it. Later I will show you the some results of the translation. And so they are talking about it's so compatible. You can have a lot of software, but it's not the ultimate goal of Loongson, because they just want to have the stepping stone for the temporary lack of ecosystem, just temporary using the x86 and ARM's ecosystem. Once the LoongArch instruction set has more applications out there using LoongArch, and then they don't need to rely on x86 and ARM's architectures like Huawei Harmony OS. Now they have the Harmony OS, but they still the Harmony OS still can run Android APK, the same theory, and many those kind of theories now are using similar theories, like the Apple's Mac CPU, the new ARM CPU can run the x86 application software as well. So it's same concept. Let's talk about the performance. Using LoongArch instruction set, 30% lower power consumption, and with this and this 160 gigaflows, so it's very fast. And about the performance, about the cache, using 16 MB level 3 cache, and it's bigger than the last generations about one time. And the single core spec 2006 base now is around the 30 marks. Peak is 30, base is 26, so it's much faster. And around the main market, Intel AMD's one is the main market. The average is about 45 around, so 30 is very close to them. The next 3A6000 and 3A7000 will be similar to Intel AMD's. Now it's okay for reaching the AMD and Intel around. I think it's around the 5 years ago CPUs, i5 CPU. Now it's around i5 6 generations, I think. They're around the same. So this is very unprecedented. And 40 around is the main market now. It has now 30 marks. I think is good. For the next 3A6000, they are going to put it in the open market so everybody can buy it easily. Now you can just buy it on Taobao. You need to search. So this 2.5 gigahertz, I think it's 12 nanometer to make. Okay, continue.
的产品有着一个大幅的提升，甚至于说在安全体系方面，在整机与设备方面，像如
They're talking about it's very good for the computation. The servers run 16 cores and 2 TF flows. This is about the server 3C 5000, not about the desktop one. So they have a server CPU, desktop CPU, and also have the SoC CPU. So they cover all the markets.
和高性能计算相结合的各种高算力的一些应用场景。在整机与设备方面，那目前的话，基于龙芯的5000系列的处理器的产品，
They have a lot of
近100家厂商推出了
products already out on the market.
应该说也涵盖了从我们的桌面到服务器，从网
desktop and from desktop to server to SoC to all kind of industry machine.
并且呢，目前应该说社区版操作系统 Loongson， 那么以及与
They are talking about the
龙芯社区
OS.
社区的合作的支持。
They have business have the UOS and Qilin OS based on Linux, all based on Linux. And community free for free. Linux is for free. And Open URA, Open Linux.
那么目前 LoongArch 的架构已经原生下 LoongArch 的
Open Linux also is for free for server and desktop. This is Linux is for desktop. That's why I'm now using. And this is the LLVM Golan. Those compiler also support the virtual machine and the binary translation, as I taught, x86 and ARM. They have this compatibility.
软件生态建设情况，设计2大提供商业级的云平台的解决方案。
It also supports Docker and KVM, also those kind of cloud service. AI also support TensorFlow, PyTorch, Cafe, those kind of things. Now they are showing the how binary translation for MIPS, ARM, and x86. So they can run WeChat, Photoshop, Adobe Dreamweaver, and some kind of CS, some games. Before they could not use it. Now you can see the videos how they use these run x86 software. All the software is not for LoongArch. This WeChat is x86 from Windows, but they use the binary translation to translate x86 to LoongArch, and then using wine, using wine to translate this from Windows to LoongArch. The writing environment Yeah, they have a lot of software
好
now.
的，那么通过上述视频，大家已经看到龙芯是如何通过爱智翻译的技术去运行了 Windows 的一些关键的应用。事实上，我们打造
They can translate the x86 software to LoongArch and using Wine to make the environment to make the Windows environment can run on Linux environment as well. On the Linux can play the Windows game, Windows software, and can run the Windows software using this Wine environment. And the printer also compatible for many companies. Epson, Brother, HP also supports the Loongson. Open source, SOC, and IoT, hospital, education, traffic, bank, and government are also now using. And they can also sell IP to other companies to use Loongson IP. They have a two system. They have this is the information system using Linux desktop. They have desktop can have a cloud using Docker. And this is a SOC and industrial and security site. On the bus, on the cars, they have a PC using this called LongOS, not Linux. Linux for desktop, LongOS for the bus. And machine, industrial machine and factory machine using LongOS, so you can have on the bus, on the Canada, on the cars, computer, TV chipset, TVs, computer, TVs, OS, you can use LongOS and support a lot of things. Also, they have books to teach our Chinese people, Chinese students to not only use CPU, but to make CPU. They have to grow to teach us to make CPU and to know Chinese CPU, to make it, not to use it, not only to use it. Okay, this is very innovative. So many books, I also have some, and now have many alliance and many companies all over China. Sooner or later, they maybe 3A6000, 3A7000, they can export it to the outside China, to the Western world, to the world as well. So you can use Loongson. You don't need to use Intel or AMD sooner or later. Once they have enough ecosystem, and also they have a good performance with the 3A6000, 3A7000, so they can have the binary translation to translate the x86 and ARMS application softwares to LoongArch from Windows environment to Linux environment, so they can have a lot of softwares. Don't need to care about the ecosystem. As I said, LongOS is for the SOC OS, like the TV. Now all the TV cars with the Android plus ARM CPU, they want to change it to LongOS plus Loongson CPU. So they can change this, I think, in China first. So you can see the Chinese made car maybe sooner or later with the LongOS and Loongson CPU. Okay, that's very good for our Chinese homegrown self-made. You don't need to buy CPU from the USA or from Europe. I think it's good. Our self CPU and OS. Linux is desktop. So they have a 21 years development experience. So they can they have now having the self-made architecture by themselves via this 21 years self-structuring. So now they want to build a great architecture LoongArch with the Chinese OS to compete with the Android and ARM and Intel with the Windows Intel. Okay, so they now have the self-made ability, or the self-made LoongArch architecture set, instruction set architecture. So all the things written by themselves, even the IP core by themselves. So they don't care about the safety, security. They don't need to care about like the backdoor by other countries using in the electric power plant. They don't need to be afraid of the other countries using the backdoor to shut the power plant, to collapse the whole country. So it's the securities the issue is very good now. And open source, they want to open the source code and to make other people to make great for the ecosystem, and it's very good for the safety. And also they are building the ecosystem independent from Intel and Android and ARM AA and Intel in Windows and Intel, independent from these two ecosystems. We are going to build the Chinese self-made homegrown information technology architecture and ecosystem. And now because 21 years experience struggling and making CPU, now the single core performance is the leading in China, and is getting and reaching to the world's main level. Because now Intel and AMD has already reached to the very top ceiling, so they cannot improve so much bit by bit, improve very slowly and very little. Loongson from very the performance was very low before. So when they have another generation, they improve 50% or 200%, but Intel and AMD only improve maybe 5% to 10% or even less. That's why Loongson can chase Intel and AMD very fast sooner or later, because improving dramatically. Now they have already so many products already out on the market, so you can buy it easily. And then they are talking about the architecture and the ecosystem, how to do it, how to cover it. This is talking about the OS, the Qilin OS. This is Surface OS, open analyst by Alibaba, Loongson社区 for free. Oh man. They also have their Loongson browser, so supported a lot of things, HTML5 and other things. And the core is from Chrome. Kernel is Chrome, and they developed by the Loongson, so they can support a lot of things and hardware acceleration, so it's good. and supported LoongArch architecture. I'm talking about this, about the security or something, and then sooner or later the videos about how Chinese company using the bank, high-speed train, and education. The school is talking about, as I have taught, the school is teaching the children, the Chinese students, to not only use CPU, but to make CPU. And they also have the using Loongson 1 series to make a robot as well. The AI robot, machine learning, not only desktop CPU, but also the robot CPU, and competition about those things. Talking about the Chinese high-speed train, so it's very safe, and using a Loongson, so it's very safe and good. And also other companies, Chinese companies using the Loongson. Is talking about this. At the beginning, so many people congratulating Loongson and talking about the Chinese Lunar New Year about is coming, so they just greet the Loongson and to give a good saying to Loongson and to congratulate Loongson, to have a new 3A5000 CPU out there on the market. It's talking about the things. So that's it. And I want to talk about something like the Loongson CPU, the 3A5000, is recently they have released on the market. It's the latest one, the 3A5000, and it only equips with the the 7A1000 GPU and 7A1000 chipset. So I am expecting the 7A2000 chipset. So it includes the 3D GPU as well. So I'm waiting for the 3A5000 with 7A2000. Then I will buy it, or I will buy the 3A6000 and wait for the 3A6000. So I don't know. But now is the 3A5000 only equipped with the 7A1000. I won't buy it, so I am still waiting for it. And this computer I'm using 3A4000 only. I can show you now. It's the 3A4000 using the long. Yeah, here I show you. Here I am using 3A4000, Loongson 3A4000 with 7A1000 chipset. And I'm waiting for the 3A5000 plus the 7A2000 chipset. So now the 7A1000 has the GPU, Loongson GPU, but it's just I'm waiting for the new one, 7A2000 with the 3D GPU, so that's great. And sooner or later with the Jinja Micro JM9 3D card, so I don't need to use AMD sooner or later. So, and the RAM and the memory SSD all already made in China, Gloway and or other Chinese company. So it's already very homegrown. This computer already okay. Using the Loongson 20, the latest one. I'm using the Loongson 20 is desktop one. The Loongson, as I have talked about. Okay, this is the Loongson browser version 3. So I'm using Loongson browser. And this video is by the Loongson Jungke, Loongson Technologies from the Bilibili. I search from the Bilibili, so I give them a credit. It's not my videos, and I just go there and search it, and you will have it on the Bilibili. So I will give it a credit. That's it. Okay. So I'm very optimistic about what the Chinese CPU, especially Loongson, for the future. With the LoongArch architecture, the instruction set is totally self-made. Unlike Huawei using ARM by the UK SoftBank, now it's Japanese SoftBank, and unlike Zhaoxin using x86 by the VIA Taiwanese chipset maker. So LoongArch is much better and much safer, and because they don't need to be afraid of being sanctioned, right? And what kind of things I need to tell is the risk profile may be okay for some kind of markets, so I'm expecting that. And this guy Wu is very great and using to serve people using mouse view to serve people. So serve for people. So he is serving our Chinese people, struggling for making CPU 20 years till now. They have been making. I need to thank him very much. I thank him very much. This is real guy. Is great leader. It's my great idol as well. I love him very much. So I respect him very much. Know him, no Chinese CPU, no homegrown LoongArch. This guy is very great guy.龍芯中科is the Loongson chairman. I always watch his videos now, so that I need to tell you, our China, we have our CPU sooner or later will be boosting. And later, we can export to the world internationally, to the America. If you want to use, we can share our CPU to USA and Europe, Japan, especially African countries, and some Southern America, so they can have our Loongson CPU to use. I think within 10 years we can export it. And his target is for the 3A6000, now it's 3A5000, 3A6000 hasn't been released yet. 3A6000 normally will be released in next year. Next year will be on the Chinese market first. And 3A7000 to 8000 or 10,000, so they will release to the international markets. I think it's around maybe 3 years later they will have the international overseas market. So 3 years or 4 years later you can use it, you can buy it maybe in your home countries. I'm expecting this kind of scenario, so that in the USA, besides Intel and AMD and Qualcomm and Apple's, in the United States, you can see Loongson CPU with the LoongArch architecture, LoongArch instruction set computer equipped CPU with the Chinese OS. I think it's very funny, right? It's different. We used to use the Americans and Windows and Intel AMD CPU, and now it's different. We are using Chinese CPU and Chinese OS. That's funny, right? I think it's good. It's the great trend, and now with Chinese, all the things like happening now. Chinese, all the fields now rapidly increase a lot and improve a lot. They have a lot of technology now. Technology are very great now, and it's very crazily improved. They have a lot of things now, crazily. I think it's good. So American people, I think for the sanction, I don't think it's useful. And Huawei now is using our Harmony OS. Now I'm using Harmony OS P Mate 40 Pro to record this video. So, okay. All right. See ya.